Deep in the jungles of Cambodia, hidden beneath layers of moss and thyme, lie monuments so grand they defy belief. Temples that stretch toward the heavens, adorned with carvings so intricate they seem almost alive. But who built them? And how did an empire, rising from the heart of Southeast Asia, summon such colossal power and precision without the tools or technology we take for granted today? Some say it was ambition, some whisper of the divine. Yet the real story of Angkor is more astonishing and more mysterious than anyone could imagine. The Khmer Empire, at its zenith, was one of the most powerful civilizations the world had ever seen. From the 9th to the 15th centuries, its influence stretched across modern-day Cambodia, Thailand, Laos, and southern Vietnam. At the heart of this empire lay Angkor, a city of temples, reservoirs, and streets so vast that it rivaled any European capital of the same era. Here, kings claimed divine authority, and stone became more than a building material. It became a statement of eternity. Yet, for centuries, the secrets of how these monumental temples were designed and constructed were lost to time. As modern explorers uncover fragments of inscriptions, hydraulic systems, and architectural marvels, a story emerges, one of ingenuity, devotion, and a civilization that flirted with perfection. Before we dive deeper into the hidden genius of Angkor, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Every week, we uncover history's most fascinating mysteries. Don't miss the next journey into the past. The story of Angkor begins not with temples, but with ambition, raw, unrelenting ambition. In the early 9th century, the Khmer people were scattered across small principalities, navigating dense forests and fertile plains, their societies fragmented yet rich with culture. Into this world stepped a figure whose vision would reshape history. Jayavarman II. Not content to merely rule a city or a region, he declared himself devaraja, a god-king, asserting that he was the earthly embodiment of Shiva, the Hindu god of destruction and creation. This proclamation was more than politics, it was cosmic. By aligning himself with the divine, Jayavarman II set in motion a vision that would demand extraordinary feats of devotion, labor, and ingenuity. It was under his leadership that the Khmer Empire began consolidating power. Small, scattered settlements were unified into a central authority. But Jayavarman II's ambitions extended beyond borders. He sought to craft a physical representation of his divine mandate, a capital worthy of gods, a city that could rival the grandeur of any in the known world. And so the foundations of Angkor were laid, not just in stone, but in water, earth, and cosmic symbolism. The location of Angkor was no accident. Situated on the floodplains of the Tonle Sap River and surrounded by dense forests, the land was fertile yet challenging. The Khmer harnessed the rhythms of nature, turning seasonal floods into a resource rather than a threat. They created barrages, massive reservoirs that controlled water flow, stored it for irrigation, and allowed rice cultivation to flourish. These reservoirs were more than practical structures, they were a spiritual statement. Water, life-giving and unpredictable, was tamed by the king's authority, a manifestation of divine order over chaos. It was a lesson carved into the very landscape. The Khmer Empire commanded both men and nature. As generations passed, the empire expanded under successive rulers, each contributing to Angkor's growing grandeur. By the 12th century, Suryavarman II ascended the throne, a king whose vision would define the very essence of Khmer ambition. Unlike his predecessors, he was determined to build a monument not only for worship, but for eternity. A temple complex that would embody the empire's power, wealth, and spiritual devotion. The result was Angkor Wat, a structure that remains the largest religious monument ever constructed, covering over 162 hectares and meticulously aligned with the cardinal points. The construction of Angkor Wat was a feat that demanded more than manpower. It required meticulous planning, coordination, and expertise. Stone, quarried from sites as far as 50 kilometers away, had to be transported across rivers, marshes, and dense jungle. Entire teams of laborers, artisans, and engineers worked in synchrony, their efforts choreographed in a scale that modern civilization would find staggering. The Khmer did not have cranes or modern tools. They relied on sheer ingenuity, wooden rollers, ramps made of earth, and the careful leverage of manpower. Each sandstone block was cut, polished, and placed with uncanny precision, forming walls, towers, and galleries that have endured for centuries. But Angkor Wat was more than an architectural marvel. It was a cosmic statement. The central towers represented Mount Meru, the sacred mountain of Hindu cosmology, considered the center of the universe. The concentric galleries mirrored the mountains and oceans surrounding this mythical peak, creating a temple that was a miniature cosmos, designed to bridge the earthly and divine realms. Every carving, every bas-relief depicting gods, demons, and epic battles was not mere decoration. These images were a language, a narrative of power, devotion, and the eternal struggle between order and chaos. Yet, the grandeur of Angkor and the Khmer Empire's achievements were not simply the result of kings and temples. They reflected a society mobilized by faith and hierarchy, where devotion was not just spiritual but practical. Artisans trained from childhood, laborers organized in vast groups, and engineers understood water, soil, and stone in ways that were revolutionary for the era. It was an empire where ambition was communal, where the vision of a god-king inspired tens of thousands to turn a marshy floodplain into a city of unparalleled sophistication. As Angkor rose, it became more than a city. It was a statement of what humanity could achieve when ambition, devotion, and intellect converged. The temples were not just places of worship. They were monuments to the Khmer worldview, a civilization that saw no boundary between man, nature, and the divine. And yet, even in the midst of this triumph, questions remained. How had a society, isolated in the heart of Southeast Asia, mastered techniques that would baffle modern engineers? How did they coordinate such enormous projects with such precision? And most puzzling of all, how did the empire sustain itself, its population, and its colossal constructions in a challenging environment for centuries? The answers, partially uncovered through archaeology, inscriptions, and scientific study, hint at a civilization whose brilliance extended beyond stone and mortar. The Khmer were visionaries, engineers, and mystics. They built not for the present but for eternity, seeking to leave a legacy so monumental that even centuries later, the world would pause in awe before the moss-covered towers of Angkor. And this was only the beginning. What they achieved in the rise of the Khmer Empire set the stage for the engineering wonders and architectural enigmas that would follow, a story that continues to challenge our understanding of human potential. As the sun rises over the dense Cambodian jungle, the silhouette of Angkor's temples casts a shadow that stretches across centuries. At first glance, these structures are awe-inspiring works of art, yet they are more than beauty. They are engineering marvels, carefully conceived and meticulously executed. To modern eyes, the temples of Angkor seem impossible. Colossal stone towers, weighing tons, arranged with uncanny precision, standing steadfast despite centuries of monsoons, floods, and earthquakes. How did the Khmer, with tools and technology that appear rudimentary today, accomplish what challenges even contemporary engineers? One of the most striking aspects of Khmer ingenuity lies in their mastery of stone construction. Angkor Wat alone consists of more than 2 million sandstone blocks. Each block, weighing between 1 and several tons, was quarried, transported, and sculpted with extraordinary precision. Quarry sites were often located kilometers away from the construction site, sometimes more than 50 kilometers. Archaeologists have debated the methods used to transport such massive stones. Some propose wooden sledges dragged by teams of workers, others suggest the use of earthen ramps, and some hint at complex pulley systems now lost to history. Whatever the method, it required perfect coordination, planning, and physical labor on a massive scale, reflecting a society capable of extraordinary organization. Yet moving the stone was only part of the challenge. The Khmer also mastered precision cutting and fitting. The sandstone blocks fit together with minimal gaps, sometimes without mortar, relying on careful shaping and alignment. Inside the temples, galleries rise in perfect symmetry, and walls align with cardinal points, solar paths, and cosmic designs. The Khmer didn't simply build temples. They created architectural maps of the cosmos, where every line and angle had both practical and symbolic significance. Their understanding of geometry and spatial organization allowed them to integrate artistic expression with structural integrity in ways that remain astonishing today. Water management was another arena where the Khmer Empire displayed unmatched brilliance. Angkor was built on a vast, low-lying floodplain where the rhythm of rivers and monsoons could both sustain life and destroy it. To conquer these challenges, the Khmer engineered an intricate hydraulic system. Canals, reservoirs, and channels were carefully designed to manage seasonal flooding, irrigate rice fields, and provide water to the city year-round. The barajas, enormous reservoirs spanning kilometers, acted as both practical infrastructure and sacred space, reflecting the spiritual significance of water in Khmer cosmology. Some experts suggest this hydraulic network also played a role in population control and urban planning, enabling a city that may have housed hundreds of thousands of people to function smoothly in a challenging environment. The ingenuity of the Khmer extends beyond stone and water. Consider the temple's bas-reliefs and carvings, which illustrate epic battles, myths, and divine figures in extraordinary detail. These carvings are not merely decorative, they also reveal a deep understanding of mathematics, symmetry, and proportion. Many bas-reliefs are oriented to align with celestial events, reflecting the Khmer's sophisticated knowledge of astronomy. Angkor Wat, for instance, is carefully aligned so that during the spring equinox, the rising sun illuminates the central tower, casting a golden light that transforms the temple into a living cosmogram of the universe. Such feats required planners to combine artistic vision with astronomical observation, a feat that underscores the Khmer's unparalleled intellectual sophistication. Moreover, the scale of labor organization at Angkor is staggering. Tens of thousands of workers, including artisans, stonecutters, laborers, engineers, and support personnel, were mobilized for decades on single projects. There is evidence of elaborate logistical systems, including the transport of materials via rivers, provisioning of workers, and management of labor teams, suggesting a society with highly structured governance and coordination. Unlike European medieval cathedrals, which took centuries to complete, Angkor Wat was constructed in just a few decades, reflecting not just ambition but extraordinary efficiency. Even the construction techniques themselves remain partially shrouded in mystery. Some archaeologists argue that the Khmer may have used temporary wooden scaffolding and ramps, yet no definitive records survive. The precision with which stones are fitted, sometimes so exact that even modern tools struggle to replicate it, suggests knowledge passed through generations of artisans, a kind of collective craftsmanship now almost forgotten. Certain engineering features, such as interlocking joints, drainage systems, and weight distribution, indicate a sophisticated understanding of physics and structural mechanics. In many ways, Angkor Wat was not merely built. It was calculated, designed, and engineered as a living structure capable of withstanding the test of time. And yet, perhaps the most astonishing aspect of Angkor's construction is the integration of spiritual vision with engineering mastery. Each technical achievement, be it moving tons of stone, controlling floods, or carving intricate reliefs, was executed with a purpose beyond mere utility. The temples were built to honor gods, reflect cosmic order, and manifest the divine authority of the king. In this sense, Angkor was more than an urban or architectural project. It was a physical embodiment of ideology, where faith, power, and ingenuity fused into a monument that was as symbolic as it was functional. Angkor's construction remains one of history's greatest enigmas. Despite advances in archaeology, engineering, and historical study, questions linger. How did the Khmer coordinate such vast human and material resources without modern machinery? How did they achieve such astronomical and geometric precision? And how did a civilization, isolated from Europe and the Middle East, develop knowledge and techniques so advanced that even today they continue to astound engineers and historians alike? As the jungle reclaims the temples, Moss climbing the weathered stone, the mystery deepens. Angkor stands as a testament not only to human ambition and skill, but also to a civilization whose vision of the world was vast, intricate, and profoundly sophisticated. It challenges modern observers to rethink the limits of ancient technology, creativity, and organization, and to consider that sometimes the greatest secrets of history are hidden not in the past, but in the stones themselves. For centuries, Angkor stood as a testament to the Khmer Empire's ambition, ingenuity, and spiritual devotion. Its temples, reservoirs, and avenues symbolized not only a civilization at its peak, but also a cosmic vision made manifest in stone. Yet, like all great empires, Angkor could not endure forever. By the 15th century, cracks began to appear in the grandeur of the Khmer world. Cracks that would eventually lead to the abandonment of the very city that had once symbolized divine power. Historians debate the precise causes of Angkor's decline, but multiple factors seem to converge. Environmental pressures played a critical role. Angkor was built on a delicate hydrological system with barrages, canals, and reservoirs carefully regulating the flow of water across the plains. Over time, deforestation, soil erosion, and changing rainfall patterns may have disrupted this balance. Canals that once controlled floods and nourished rice fields became clogged or diverted, leaving parts of the city vulnerable to both droughts and destructive monsoons. Such environmental challenges would have strained agricultural production, reducing food supplies for a population that may have reached hundreds of thousands. Political instability further weakened the empire. Kings rose and fell in rapid succession, sometimes through violent conflict, other times through intrigue. The centralized authority required to maintain the massive infrastructure of Angkor faltered, leaving the hydraulic systems, temples, and cities less efficiently managed. At the same time, regional powers, including the Ayutthaya kingdom to the west, began to challenge Khmer dominance. Military pressures, combined with internal disarray, chipped away at the empire's strength. Angkor, once the beating heart of Southeast Asia, slowly began to fade from prominence. Yet the decline of Angkor is not merely a story of environmental or political failure. It is also shrouded in mystery. By the time European explorers stumbled upon its ruins centuries later, the city had been largely reclaimed by the jungle. Trees grew through stone corridors, roots pried apart walls, and moss-cloaked towers that once reached the heavens. Angkor appeared frozen in time, a vast metropolis swallowed by nature. For explorers, historians, and archaeologists alike, it posed a series of questions that remain partly unanswered. How could such an advanced civilization vanish so completely? How did its knowledge, expertise, and artistry disappear almost overnight? Modern archaeological studies have begun to shed light on these enigmas. Satellite imagery, LiDAR scans, and soil analysis reveal that Angkor was far larger than previously imagined, with a vast network of roads, canals, and settlements stretching over hundreds of square kilometers. These studies suggest that the city's fall may have been gradual, a slow collapse rather than a single catastrophic event. Some theories propose that overextension, attempting to sustain a massive population with an increasingly fragile infrastructure, played a central role. Others point to climate change, noting prolonged droughts interspersed with extreme flooding, which would have disrupted food production and weakened political authority. Even as Angkor faded, its legacy endured. The temples, abandoned yet majestic, continued to inspire awe. Local populations preserved knowledge of their existence, and Hindu and Buddhist rituals persisted in some form within the ruins. European explorers in the 19th century, including Henri Mouhot, brought Angkor to global attention, marveling at the architectural precision, artistic detail, and sheer scale of the city. Yet even with modern study, the Khmer Empire's achievements remain partly enigmatic. The techniques of construction, the organization of labor, and the integration of cosmology, hydraulics, and architecture are still incompletely understood. The enduring legacy of Angkor is perhaps its most profound lesson. The temples, reservoirs, and urban planning reveal a civilization that harmonized art, engineering, and spirituality. Angkor was more than a city. It was a statement about human potential, showing how societies can blend devotion, creativity, and technical mastery to shape the world. Its ruins remind us that even the mightiest empires are vulnerable to environmental shifts, political fragility, and the passage of time, but also that their visions can resonate long after their decline. Today, millions visit Angkor each year, drawn by the allure of history and mystery. Walking among the towers, galleries, and carved corridors, visitors are struck not only by the grandeur of stone, but also by the echoes of human ingenuity that resonate across centuries. Angkor teaches us to see the past as more than a series of dates and events. It encourages us to understand ambition, creativity, and vision as forces that shape civilizations. And yet, the greatest mysteries remain hidden in plain sight. How exactly were the stones moved with such precision? How did the Khmer coordinate tens of thousands of workers without written blueprints or modern technology? How did their knowledge of astronomy, mathematics, and hydraulics surpass what one might expect for the time and place? Each question deepens the intrigue, suggesting that Angkor was not merely an achievement of its era, but a challenge to all of us, to consider what is possible when human ingenuity meets collective purpose. As the sun sets over the moss-covered spires and lotus-filled moats, Angkor whispers across time. It tells a story of ambition, brilliance, devotion, and decline, a story of a civilization that sought to touch the heavens, yet was inevitably reminded of the impermanence of human achievement. And yet, even in decay, Angkor remains alive, not just as stone and sand, but as a symbol of the mystery, creativity, and resilience that define human history. Its message is clear. Empires may fall, nature may reclaim, but the human spirit captured in stone continues to inspire, challenge, and captivate those who dare to look closer.